Hi, everybody. I have something pretty exciting to share with you today. We have a collection of quilts that were done by the Central Oregon group of Studio Art Quilt Associates. And our challenge was the theme of golden memories in celebration. And that was because of our 50th anniversary for Sisters Outdoor Quilt Show. And we all made them 18 by 40 and used gold someplace in them. And yesterday, when we were hanging the show, it was really fascinating how that gold really did pull the eye through the whole exhibit. So it's kind of fun. So I'm going to share it with you now and give you uh, the name of each person that made the quilt. And then I may make little comments here and there. So I just want you to enjoy. This is Val Schul's quilt, and I've known Val for a long time, and I love her aesthetic. She has a real knack for finding unusual fabrics and being able to put them together so pleasantly. Um, and I think the circular quilting um, that she's put in here um, is really, really nice too. And a lot of it is hand stitching. And the next piece is made by Tina Davis, and she entitled it Mentor. And it's actually a little portrait of me. Tina's been taking a workshop that we do. I have a monthly mentoring group, and she's been in it for 3 years. And she's a very diligent quilter. And I thought it was really interesting how she also adapted the log cabin, because that's such a classic block. And we focused a lot of log cabin uh, quilt exhibits this year at the show. And she also has used a lot of the fabrics that I have designed through the years. So, and I had not seen this quilt until yesterday when we hung the show. I was so busy on Quilt Show Day, I didn't see it. So it was a nice surprise for me. And then Elk, A Golden Memory, is made by Leilani Purvis, and she is known for doing her hand-dyed fabrics and pictorial collage, and also thread painting. And you can see that the elk and the mountains are all thread painted. And the next one we have is called Let's Celebrate, and it's by Chris Lang. And Chris is well known for her abstract work, and I think this piece is just stunning. Those kind of splattered, stitched areas that you see in here, she takes acrylic paints and dips pine needles, a bunch of pine needles in, and just splatters on. And that splattered look, I mean, she really took advantage of that. And then pulling her gold strips through, I thought was a brilliant idea. And, it's kind of symbolic of the three sisters. And those little pieces were made by Giuseppe, who teaches classes at Quilters Affair every year, and he teaches that little tiny paper piecing. And you're not always sure how you're going to work more traditional pieces in with contemporary, but I think Chris did a beautiful job with that. And this next piece is done by Donna Kozel, and Donna worked and worked on strata that she then cut apart and reassembled to make the background for this piece. And I thought she did a beautiful job with that. And then she incorporated wool for the leaves and has them scattered around with her aspen trees. But it's nice seeing a mixture of wool and the cottons. And she has a lot of the textured solids as well as just solids. And this is Dandelions and Jonquils, and it's by Patty Stewart. And it is such a happy piece. It just makes me think of spring. And she's used collage sort of piecing techniques in the back. And then on the front, she has applique, and some of the petals are actually dimensional. And then she's one who loves doing the Sue Spargo style stitching, and you can see where she's added really nice stitching details. So it's really a combination of lots of different techniques. Leaf Fall is by Jan Tetzlaff, and Jan is known for her working with solid-like hand-dyed fabrics, and she played on the idea of the leaves and then did a lot of piecing within the leaf shape and all of the tiny little hand stitching. And Jan always hand quilts, hand stitches everything. And she's known for her little skinny lines also that you can see throughout. And this was an opportunity for her to let some of them slide off a touch, which is a really nice effect. Silver Threads and Golden Needles is by Diane Browning. And Diane is known for using her decorator fabrics. She was an interior decorator for many years, and she uses a lot of the fabrics from her sample books. And there's some trapunto on this quilt too, where you see the white area and then the center area in the hearts. Lots of nice applique with metallic sort of thread, and there's some metallic trim. So this is just full of things to look at, and she did a really nice job with her machine quilting also. September Garden is from Linda Weick, and Linda did this eco-dine print in the middle and stitched on it and then decided to put it into this beautiful setting. And I really feel like the colors she chose for her blues and her purples in the outer area really made the interior area sing and feel more important. And I love seeing all of the hand stitching as well as the machine quilting that she's done a beautiful job with. And you might notice that there are a couple little 9 patches in there too with all of those triangles, which is kind of fun. Just mixing things up. But when you stitch over the top of all of those areas, rather than keeping your quilting stitches inside a square or triangle, adds another layer of interest in telling the story that you are telling in your piece. This top piece is from Kristen Collins, and it's called Making. And you can tell she's in the throngs of deciding what colors go with what and twisting and turning. I thought it was a brilliant idea of intertwining the colors, and there's a lot of hand applique in this piece, and her machine quilting is done beautifully. There's a whole almost secondary story told in the quilting compared to the piecing, and they all though kind of come together in that center where you see them overlapping. And I thought her color choices were really nice too. And this piece below was done by me. It's called Dancing in the Rain. And I had this beautiful piece of hand dyed fabric that I've had for years. And I thought, I'm going to do something with it finally this year. And I just didn't want to cut it up. So I ended up using a lot of bias strips of my indigo hand dyed cloth, and just thought about what it's like to maybe be out dancing in the rain and puddles and streams of water. So that's what I ended up doing, and it is machine quilted and then hand appliqued. Quilter's Joy is by Leotie Richards, and she is very well known for her work with wool and her pictorial work. And, you know, this to me is what we're all about, is joy. And I think that most people who do this kind of work feel a great amount of joy, especially when they're finished or they solve a problem that's been bothering them. She's embellished with buttons and embroidery, and every time I look at this, I see something new. Lone Pine was created by Sandy Dwight, and she's in the same mentoring group that Tina is in. And I just think she ended up with a really, really nice piece. And I know how she struggled with this. She had a photograph she just loved. And I really think she captured the essence of that photograph. And she was really drawn to the one lone pine tree that was in her photograph. And she ended up creating it with thread painting. And, you know, when you see the little pine needles blowing off the tree, that cross over, I think, was a brilliant idea rather than just having that single tree sitting down there. So she integrated that really well into the design. I also liked that the little pieces of the black right in here. I thought that really added some depth to that feeling that you see in the landscape. Okay, and Tap Dancing Upside Down is by Nancy Tangman. And this piece makes me laugh every time I see it. And there are so many little stories on here. And she could stand on her head and tap dance. So there she is standing on her head. She painted our house bright orange. She turned a corkscrew willow into a Christmas tree. And I think she's talking about her mother, who tap danced in a USO show. During the 50 years we spent together, she continued to turn life upside down in the best ways. I used remnants of her dress and her favorite coat. And I love this piece. I loved all the memories in it too, and I think she did a brilliant job. There's applique and stitching and piecing, and then she transferred the photograph to the fabric of her mother and her. Garden Mystery is by Janet White, and it is a raw edge collage piece. And I think she did a fabulous job of moving her colors around. You know, it's basically golds more in the background, and then the magenta as an accent was brilliant. And what's interesting is that you really needed that gray also to stop and give the eye a rest as you look at the piece. And the closer you look, the more you see. Her free motion quilting is beautiful. There's lots of leaves and flowers, there's words. It's really a nice piece. I see the word beautiful. What else? Well, I can't tell what that one is. So, very fun piece to look at. Okay, and next we have The River Remembers Her, Karen Hewer. And she says, the woman in purple always seemed to be knee deep in the Metolius, casting slow arcs over water that moved like time. It was like she belonged more to the river than the land. And what's so fascinating about this is that we have a family cabin on the Metolius. This could be our cabin right in front of our cabin. And I looked at it and it just, it stopped me for a minute. I thought, that really looks like Grandma's cabin. She has done applique, fused applique, hand stitching, thread painting, and yeah, it's all the one thing that interests me was the layering that you feel in this piece. And, it's not easy to always get that right, but she really did a good job of creating a feeling of perspective in the piece as well. Okay, Happy Anniversary is done by Lynn Wall. And I looked at this piece and I knew it was Lynn's. This is very much the way she likes to work. She loves working with scraps, and she just digs around, makes things work, and doesn't spend a lot of time fussing about anything. And I thought this turned out beautifully. I love the black and white in it, and then the black and white around the edge. I think without it, it wouldn't feel as important. The colors wouldn't. There's something about how black and white really makes everybody else sing. Carol King made the Celebrations quilt, and I know Carol fairly well, and this looks like her work. And she's very careful, and she thinks through everything she does, and I feel that in every stitch I look at. And I love the circles that she put at the top and the bottom with the embroidery. And you might get in close and look at her labels. She signed the front of her quilt. She made a label out of the same fabric in this strip and signed it. And I think it's really nice to see people starting to sign their quilts on the front. And the color palette really interests me too. And I think there's really nice contrast with in intensity. The dulls really hold up the intense things. And I think she did a beautiful job with it. Okay, this is Donna Rice's bouquet. And if you know Donna, she loves making quilts with lots of little pieces. And I think she used her cutting machine to make these floral and leaf shapes. And I saw her hand stitching these little quiltlets. And she was carrying them around in a bag for about 6 months, just making those. And then she finally got enough that could go around the whole quilt. And Donna has been doing long arm quilting for a long, long time here in Central Oregon. And I think her stitching is really exquisite also. I mean, she's gone around every little bit in these things. I mean, it's really, really pretty. I like her color combinations too. Very happy. And speaking of happy, this is Play It Again by Nancy Rohr. And I just thought, I looked at it and I thought of celebration. I think of all the quilts in here, this really feels like you're celebrating. And this is fusible applique, and this is the first time she has done her own machine quilting. So I just think we should tell her congratulations. It's a beautiful job and very well done. This is Here Comes the Sun from Sharon Carvello. And I am really surprised to see this color palette because she is so well known for using a lot of black and whites. And this is really a breath of fresh air. Um, it's fun to see the different styles of fabric she's put together in there with the solids. Um, and you know, it's those printed fabrics add that visual texture that you don't always get with the solid until it's quilted. So it's nice to see the combination of the two things. And it certainly is a happy piece. And Woolly Cabins was made by Marion Shimoda. And I remember when I first started seeing these blocks, Marion always has a bag of stitching wherever you see her. And she started making these random little log cabin blocks. Eventually, they ended up 18 by 40. And the way she just responds to color as she works, she kind of has, you know, her bag of stuff, but as she picks things out, you know, you'll see some duller things with some brighter things. You know, the pinks are used a little bit more on a smaller scale, and so they become the accent. But there's really interesting fabrics to see in here because a lot of her wools are plaids or printed, and there's a couple that look like they were maybe dyed. So it's fun to, you know, take a close up look. And then she did a lot of hand stitching also. And this last piece is Golden Memories by Jane Jensen Davis. And it just seemed to fit back here. And we did a little display with yarn and everything. I think it's fun to look at things that are memories to her. And I know she loves doing stitching also. And those pumpkins are brilliantly stitched. And then it's fun to see her little garden pieces also down here. This is just a very, very happy piece. And that is the end of our show. But I hope you get a chance to come by on Friday. Linda Wyke and Nancy Rohr have taken care of refreshments and everything. And I understand that Linda's husband may show up in his tux to pour wine. So we're hoping you can come by. And I know Linda and Nancy are making some nice snacky things. So hope to see you.